Hello and welcome back to Heroic Stats, episode 35, an Any Heroics podcast. My name is, of course, Stephen, the captain of Any Heroics, the only GBHL team where we select the captain based on their ability to act as a dictator and kick out their best friends from when they were 10 from their GBHL team in search of literally anyone else who is a free agent and able to put up a good score. I am joined, as almost always, by John Partridge, the intern, hair, beard and glasses, and Dave, no hair, beard and glasses, farmer. And today, we've got a very special guest, Mr. Recluse of the scene nowadays, Mr. Matthew Light. Matt, how are we doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Glad to be here, Stephen.
Dropped out of any tournaments recently?
No, actually, I think I've played through all of the last 4.
Wow,
Four.
That's impressive. Yeah. You must have done well in the last 4 then, is all I can say.
Yeah, that did help.
Worthy of a golf clap.
For those of you unaware, Matt is, of course, one of the members of the wonderful GBHL team, 7th City Crusaders. He is, of course, a gaming legend, both from last year and this year, having won the GBHL Masters this year, and also being the inspiration for my incredibly boring use of the Dragon Emperor, which has yet to gain me any success at a tournament. Dave, John, what's new with you guys?
Not much. Got some hobby going. Almost finished the Bjornings, working on the display board now. After Melton Middle-earth threw down the gauntlet, I've had to continue doing what I'm doing and continue painting armies.
I'd call it a battle of influencers, but Jack Darlington isn't quite an influencer yet. Pew 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 pew.
I'm very excited for a Christmas tournament later in the year, John, and see your Christmas themes display board and army, because I remember how livid you were last year. Was it at the team event or the finale?
It was the finale.
Where you turned up with this absolutely beautifully painted army and fantastic display board, and you just like lost out to everything dressed as like elves with bells on and things.
Yeah, because that was the one where we managed to get a beautiful photo of Charles, your beautiful son and cat, in the background as kind of a almost a Nazgul or Sauron.
That is a fantastic picture, John. Absolutely. John did the background?
Yeah,
you can see it on screen now if I remember to edit it in.
Yeah. So that was actually the segue for the intern to go to the 7th City collectibles slide. However, he didn't get my gist. So we are, of course, affiliated by the wonderful 7th City collectibles, stockists of all your favorite systems: Middle-earth, 40k, Old World, Sigmar, card games, board games, paints, terrain, etc. They also, of course, buy and sell secondhand goods, which is very exciting. Specifically miniatures. You can't just like turn up with an old fridge and they'll buy it off you. Or maybe you can if theirs is broken. I'm not entirely sure. Message Will Champion on Facebook if you have any fridges for sale. We are very excited, myself and Dave, to be heading up to Ripon of Dice and Men this weekend. We're staying in a lovely Airbnb in the Yorkshire countryside, where we've been offered fresh eggs for breakfast from chickens that like roost.
Wow, that's amazing. When you get an Airbnb or like a B&B and it's like a nice lady who feeds you breakfast, it's just the best.
Yeah, and there's characters to the place and there's dogs, and she's advised about the parking and whatnot.
Cute.
Yeah, it's really sweet. But we are.
It makes tournaments so memorable.
Exactly. Especially, I stayed at a great Airbnb last year for the finale. That was a wonderful time. That was an Airbnb up in Derby, I think. Host was very nice. 7th City Collectibles, of course, are hosting the event in Ripon. We got our tickets from their site because they also do events. You should go to an event of theirs. They've got a couple more later this year. They have the Rings of Men, which is a incredibly fluffy and hilarious 80-point event. And also at the end of the year, they have the Heroes of the West event, which we will, of course, be going in it as Any Heroics to win and retain our shield. But that's enough bragging about events which we won last year. We didn't even podium the league as a team, so didn't do us any good. Let's move on to some events.
How did that get in there?
Oh, there's the picture of Charles overseeing the wonderful display board that didn't win John anything. Have you won anything with this display board, John?
Yeah, I have now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I
So-
took it to City of Steel, got the recognition.
Have you ever made something or painted an army to a standard you think is good that didn't win anything?
No.
Did the Dragon Emperor win Best Painted?
Great answer.
I didn't think it was good and painted to a standard. That's why I flogged it.
I'm not paying you any of that money then.
Definitely in my mind.
No change there.
Just put it on the
enough
split
about
one.
my it's already on split one. Enough about my failings as a painter. Let's talk about a tournament. The first and only 100 of the weekend was the Battle of Clydewater 2024 GBHL 100 two-day event with 6 games at 800 points. Connor Kerr was the TO, and the intern has failed to list most sporting and best painted. Do we know who won those?
Yes, I definitely sent those to you. So bear with me just one moment and I will confirm for you. I know Alex Bordas with his beautiful Black Riders with a water feature, which I also sent to you.
Yes, I've got pictures of the armies. Oh, they're the names.
And Henry W.
And Alex Bordas.
Did they
Ooh,
tie
lovely.
on Best Painted? Is that correct? Or is it a Best
Yeah.
Painted in a display?
I think they tied.
I think it went down to a lot of there was like a bunch of they basically got, it was like they both got 10 votes or something silly like that.
I like this army a lot, and I know this isn't what you get me on the episode for, but I like this army a lot. But I really feel like it would be elevated if all of the wraiths were like getting their asses kicked, and they were all like actually in the water and just sort of like being like blown away, rather than just like having stepped in. So Alex, if you're interested in sort of the next level, you'd get my vote on that.
Yeah, I mean, my hatred for the Black Riders Legendary Legion and its unfun play experience would almost be made up for by the entire Fords of the Wrath of Bruinen scene in the books.
It
With
is on my
potentially
to-do list.
an Elrond on the side, or like in a cutaway, or like maybe you've created a hill and then underneath you've got like a little Rivendell section in the side, which is a cutaway section. That would be la pièce de résistance. This is Henry. Give me a second. I'm just going to confirm his name. Henry Williams, with what looks to be Durin's folk and a
My man
flappy
has
boy.
Marden. What a beast.
Well, you got to take Marden.
Instantly.
Marden's really competitive.
Instantly goated behaviour. King champion. Sorry, king? What is that on the left?
I think that's a Thrall that's been converted up to look fancy looking at it. But
Yeah, it could be.
Can't be sure.
The
Just
one
by
on
like
the
the
right.
pose.
I think that might be the one on the right next to Marden. I think that might be a shield. To be fair, that might actually just be another Vault Warden team, because that is a captain that's been given a Vault Warden shield, and then he's got Marden, so he may have just been using them as considering the heroes that are already in there and the number of dwarves. It's probably just a
cool looking Vault Warden team.
That is the only use for Marden, is a proxy for a Vault Warden, unfortunately.
He's got an eye patch.
He does have an eye patch. Also,
Right.
big shout out to Marty Sanderson, who won most sporting.
And before we turn into a hobby podcast, let's look at some podium lists. In third place, we've got Ben Haslam, well known on the podcast by now. He's having a great year. Matt, you'll be familiar with this list. Do you want to run it through for us?
Yeah, so we've got the Dragon Emperor, Rutabi, Brawlgear, and an Eastern Captain, and then we have 39 Eastlings, including a Cataphract with a mix of pikes and shields and so on. 43 models, 2 bows, Breakpoint 22, etc. I don't know about everyone else, but whenever I see an army with an odd number,
Makes
so
me
that it
sad.
doesn't get that extra breakpoint, it just makes me feel like something else should have been happening.
I think at that point you drop a model and then have a couple of extra black dragons and or a shield on the Aisling captain, because unlike most things, the captain can kind of use it well because it becomes a D7 guy that you put in front of strength 4 heroes. That is Rutabi. I think I like about this list though is he's very pointedly not paid for any Black Dragon. He hasn't even done the Cataphract Drum and the Emperor's Warband. He's like, no, I'm having another Pikeman for free upgrade. I'm not.
It's something that I think honestly Ben Haslam is probably now the Dragon Emperor player. He's taken over the mantle from Jamji Williams because he takes this very consistently to events and consistently does very well with it. He doesn't put the Cataphract Drummer with the Dragon Emperor. He always puts it with Utabi.
Is that reason though? Is because when he played this Articon at 650, he managed to get 40 models by taking 2 captains and the Dragon Emperor. His thing is bodies is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's absolutely right.
And if you're going to have bodies are good, you need to min-max the amount of Black Dragon pikes you get, and that means you don't put the drum with the Emperor. And the only time that's ever going to matter is in Maelstrom. And if you get in Maelstrom, you can just spend Rutabi's Might if you have to. Like, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things I would say about this list is that the Clydewater scoring format favoured, and I'm sure we'll get to this in a moment, favoured big wins, basically turning into more tournament points. And the thing about the Host of the Dragon Emperor as a list, I touched on this last time I was on the show, was that because of the nature of the random game ends and allowing you to re-roll that, and also having lots of models, lots of re-rolls, high breakpoint, you actually allow yourself to score a lot more 12-0s than you would do over the course of a tournament, and that would really have added up at this event. And I wouldn't be surprised if you really drill down into it with Ben, there were a couple of scenarios that were random when broken, where he re-rolled it, managed to score an extra 3 victory points, and if that happens twice in the tournament, in that kind of tournament, suddenly that third could have been like a 6th or a 7th. So yeah, great result for Ben, great list, and great thinking.
For those who are unaware,
Ben won 4 games out of 6.
For those of you who are unaware, it's the scoring system in this case is you start with 12 points, and for every VP you score, well, a simplified version is for every VP you score against your opponent's VPs, you go up and they go down, yada yada.
It's VP diff, so if you get a 12-0, you get 24 and they get 0. If you get a 2-0, you get 14 and they get 10. And there's also a bonus 2 TPs for winning, so a 1-0 is a little bit better than a 0-0 kind of thing. Yeah. There's incentive to try and win more so than the 1 point.
Importantly,
I don't know if that's enough personally, but
this is commonly used in the IHL, which is of course Ivan's hobby league, because it's Ivan's league and we're all just existing in it. I mean,
I don't want to get too soapboxy, but I think this is absolute trash as a way of running tournaments. Fundamentally, when you actually look at what happens in a tournament, you 12-0 the people that you're considerably better against or have a massive list advantage and scenario advantage into, and you get smaller scores in tighter games that are harder to win. So what you're actually doing is rewarding with more points the easier games and easier matchups, and making the other ones bad. So if you, which I don't think is desirable, but I can see why it's attractive.
The scoring format actually. Oh, go ahead.
People do it because they think it like increases the variance, and it certainly does. But the problem I have with it, and this is something that we'll see shortly, is it heavily favors extremely swingy lists, because you can go 4-2, and if you lose a couple games, 2 games like 5-3 or like 7-2 even, but as if you win your 4 of your games 12-0, you're likely to be on the podium even regardless. And so this is going to sound like a strange, it's like the difference between front running and sandbagging. If you've heard those terms before I've heard them mostly used to talk about Mario Kart, but if you're at the front, you have the hard games, as Matt says, and you don't get any good items with banana skins, and everyone's throwing blue shells at you. Whereas if you're at the back, you get a bullet bill, you get the golden mushroom that lets you take all the shortcuts, and it's the same principle. So the scoring system I'm not a huge fan of. Arguably part of the tournament is trying to exploit that, but it's not my personal favorite.
It's actually put me off going to a couple of events this year, knowing that they were this scoring format, and that's just because I personally I don't have a problem with the concept. I would say if I do win an early game, it's quite often a 12-0 or something high like that. that's a humble brag because I then immediately plummet back down the rankings.
Yeah.
And what the problematic thing is, Stephen, is that if you lose the first game and then you just end up having that sort of slightly easier tournament, that's when it can be really unpleasant.
And it's over rewarding a potential easy matchup, because let's say I have to play Dave Davison, who's played one tournament of SBG before in his life, in my first game, and I 12-0 him. And literally any person on this podcast has to play someone as legendary like Ed Ball or Jay Clare and squeaks out a 7-6 win. I've got a massive advantage just because the dice happen to favour that.
And when I think about the 12-0 wins that I get, they are not the games that I come away thinking that I played masterfully, and as a result, I got all of these 12 victory points. It's normally like, so I had fast models and you didn't, so I annihilated you. Or
the 12-0 I got.
I had lots of bows and you had to walk towards me, that kind of thing.
I was playing the Dragon Emperor. I had March and a drum. I was playing Seize the Prize, and I was playing against someone who didn't have March or a drum or magic. So to not win that at a minimum of 7-0 would be a tragedy. And that's just because that's how it worked out. And if the tournament had been based on you get a TP for each VP, that's an insane difference.
We haven't touched on this really. We talked about player matchups, which is obviously important, but actually one of the big things with this that will decide how many points you can score is army matchups. Some army matchups. So we'll get into this in a second. In fact, why don't you flip to the next slide here, John? So I gave a name. And I won all 6 of my games. And spoilers, the person who won went 4-2. And that kind of demonstrates the problem or the advantage in the scoring system. Because in my final night, I played 2 Assault and Lothorian mirror matches. And those games are not easy to get big wins in. And I was at the top of basically after game 3, I was on top table the whole tournament, the whole second day. So, by that logic, I'm sort of taking the hardest matchups repeatedly and getting difficult mirror matches in scenarios where it's hard to score big if you don't have a really skew matchup. On the table next to me, there's a very skew matchup that goes exactly the way you think it will go, and that results in a 12-0. It's frustrating in that sense, but also I knew this was the scoring system coming to the tournament, and I chose to take an army list that I knew was good at eking out medium wins rather than. I mean, this list is not that good at farming out the big 12-0s, really. It can be if you really go for it, but what it's actually great at is winning every game rather than dominating every game, if that makes sense. Anyway,
what is pretty cringe about this list, and I'll run through it quickly, is Assault on Lothlorien, 20 bows, total of 63 models. Boo. 63 models, boo.
Explain why that is in a second, if you want, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. So we've got Musgur, we've got an Orc Captain on Warg, we've got an Orc Shaman, we've got Druzag, and we've got a Moray Goblin Shaman. Obviously, it's about 50-50 Orcs and Goblins. It's got 2 Bat Swarms, and it's got 3 Giant Spiders. Amongst the fluff, it's got a Banner, it's got 2 Warg Riders, it's got a Marauder, it's got 7 Prowlers, and it's got 3 Orc Trackers. And the rest is just Goblins with Bow Spear and Orcs. Or sorry, Goblins with Bows. My apologies. So why 63 models, Dave?
Because this is a 5-hero variant, and in order to get the extra bows, so something important is this has 20 bows, but it actually has 21 bows because Warg Marauders count as 1, but they also have 2 bow shots because they have 2 Goblins with bow on top of them. And in order to get the 5 heroes and the Marauder and all the stuff that I've got in there that I consider non-negotiable, which is to say a Banner, 2 Bats, 3 Spiders, 800 points. I think that's basically non-negotiable. And to get the numbers right, in order to get that max, basically, if I drop I can't get another model without dropping one of those important big things.
Yeah.
And I can't drop a model to get down to 62 and buff something else up without losing a bow shot. And if I'm dropping the Marauder, which is the only droppable thing there, then I'm losing a bow shot anyway, so it doesn't serve any purpose.
I think that's a very reasonable reason.
Yeah, I think we chatted about it briefly, and I obviously didn't give any advice or salient points on the list because I played it a total of 6 games, I think. I think it's quite fun. But your desire to take the Wild Marauder, how did you find that was? Because it's not, obviously it's been in the list the whole time. It's quite rare that you actually see one in a Assault on Lost Lorien list.
So I don't think it's that rare. You see him a fair bit. I was thinking that, like, I played this at the Nations Cup and I used 2 captains. I used to draw a Goblin captain, and I was thinking, like, I don't need another captain. Like, the only scenario that's actually good in is Divide and Conquer, which is good, but also Assault on Lost Lorien is really good at Divide and Conquer anyway. Like, it's not a problem to not have a second marcher. So I thought Wild Marauders actually offer you a great deal of play on certain objective scenarios. It's extremely good in stuff like Breakthrough, because your opponent has to massively overcommit to their back objective, because you can just rock up with a Marauder and just deposit 4 models onto it instead of 1. Because Wild Marauders, or like in Recon, you get 1 model through and you dismount and you get 3 models off the board. Because the 3 goblins all come, if you don't know, the 3 goblins can all dismount, and that becomes, if the Warg just sticks around, which with Druzag it often does, because it's Courage 4 within 12 of him, you get 4 models instead of 1. So it's like a sudden, basically, they are a very versatile profile. They count as a Warg for the purposes of Druzag's Fury, although not for his Enraged Beast, because it's slightly weirdly worded, but they benefit from his Fury. They benefit from the Goblin Shaman's Fury as well, so they benefit from 2 different Fury sources, which is really handy. They are Strength 4, 4 attacks on the charge with a knockdown, and if you have a Batswarm in there as well, that's a +1 because you outnumber. Like, they're insanely high damaging for a 30-point model. Like, that's literally the same damage output as Gilgalad if you win a fight, by the way, which is crazy.
Bad but true.
8 strength 4 attacks with a +1.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Do you get to re-roll one of those
shot.
dice though?
They can also, no, not quite. They can move full.
Gilgalad doesn't tend to get to rock out with bats either, so
no.
it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, he's also not 30 points. They have 2 bow shots that they can fire if you move full, so they're absolutely phenomenal at skirmishing on objectives. Like, there's almost nothing that I would say is noticeably better than them for this kind of points bracket at like side objectives. I think werewolves, as they come out, will be similar because Fellsight is so good for that kind of thing. Like, if they had Fellsight, that'd be amazing. But they have terror. They can dismount and turn into loads of models that then also get bonuses for outnumbering. The value is great. Like, basically, the reason I changed the list and had it 63 models instead of the captain is because I wanted to run a Marauder. So I looked at them and I was thinking, why don't I run this?
Would you ever consider 2, or would you lose too much stuff?
You could run 2. Like, the thing is, you'd have to retool the list a little bit, but you could probably drop. The main reason I haven't really considered 2 is I actually only have 1. I'd have to convert a second one, which would be annoying. And I have a sneaking suspicion these guys might be getting removed or thrown into Legend in a few months. I'm not that motivated to convert more of them, if you follow me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like him. It's good. I wouldn't say he was like a game changer, but actually for 30 points, he doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
He's essentially, you pay 8 points to take 2 bows and a shield and a wild warg, combine them into one thing that has a lot of benefits over all of them, and the only thing you don't get out of that is like model count, which is fine because you have a shit ton of that anyway.
Yeah.
You follow me?
I
Also,
do follow you, Dave.
It can deny your 25%, which doesn't happen very often. But if you don't want a 25%, dismounting all your wargs near Druzag, suddenly you have like 5 more models on the board, which, unlike with breaking, do count towards your 25% number. But
Top tips from the world champion. Shall we look at the winning list? The one that, as Dave alluded to, went 4-2, but still managed to pip him to the post, unfortunately. Once again, it's no stranger to the pod. First place was taken by Mr. Jake Rawson with his tried and trusted Isengard. 800 points, Jake bought 53 models, 15 bows, a few extra shots though with his hero who we'll get on to. He's got Lurtz, Vrasku, Gorolf, and an Isengard Ballista. Interestingly, he takes 2 demolition crews with Lurtz, 3 Urukai with crossbow, 1 Orc with spear and shield, 2 Orcs with spear, and a Crabane for that insane mobility. Vrasku leads 5 warriors with crossbows, 5 with pike, 1 Orc with a spear and another Crabane, and Gorov leads 5 crossbows again, 5 pikes, 1 Orc warrior with spear, and 1 Orc warrior with spear, banner, and shield. 2 bombs is wacky.
Yeah, so I was picking Jake's brain about this because 2 bombs. So you say tried and trusted, or tried and trusted, and I would say to that, I don't think I've seen him play this 800 yet. So this is in some regard it's new in that sense. In terms
We've
of
seen
doing
him do very well at
anyway.
lower points.
700 is like a comfort zone because you get basically this without one of the bomb teams. You end up with like he's changed some of them for orcs. He's got more orcs than usual here. There's a few more, including a banner. But the double bomb, I think the logic was it's a good counter to what is likely to be picked as a good idea at this kind of tournament. So you think like what do you think of when you think of skew lists that score highly? You think of your Guahirs, you think of things that are good big bomb targets. And like AOL, as demonstrated, despite being excellent at 800 points, isn't great at scoring big wins. And I mean, the fact that I went 6-0 and he still beat me tells you something, especially considering he actually lost 2 games. He lost 2 games, I think, by 1 or 2 or maybe like less than 3 or 4 VPs. I think his one against Will was a 2-point loss. I don't know about his first. I think his first loss was like a 7-point loss against Michael in the first round. But getting, I think it's 3 12-0s and an 11-0 put him ahead of me.
Yeah.
And yeah, the double bomb.
Yeah, so we talked about this tournament in advance, and when we all played this one last time, I think you won this tournament last year, didn't you, Dave?
I did, yeah, with the Battle of 500.
And the thing that struck us as the Crusaders was just there were unbelievably large numbers of like big piles of elves and dwarves, sometimes on their own, sometimes together, and obviously the bombs are just completely fantastic there, and also those armies that can occasionally score big because they don't break, and you know they've got a big chopper hero who can get things done. So I think it was a kind of response to that, which obviously wouldn't be ideal when you're running into 2 of the better players there, both playing Assault and Lothlorien.
Yeah, I mean, I think the logic is to you blow a hole in the battle line and then you rush through with Urukai and you have a fight when they've split their line into something, because it forces them to play. And then if they don't set up a battle line, you can probably win because you have pikes, kind of thing. Like you have an advantage in terms of dice. So unless you happen to have like heavy elf shooting with blinding light, I think this is probably going to outshoot you, which forces you to run at them. And then we actually played 2 Maelstrom missions because it was full random mission drawing. We played Come on the Battlefield and Whole Ground, which, given that Lurtz has the double bombs with him, that is because Lurtz, as
you can see why some 12s happened.
Yeah, well, actually, to be fair, he lost Come on the Battlefield against Will. But if you're not prepared for what you have to do to, protect against this bomb setup, then yeah, it's rough. And I think he was saying that actually 2 bombs isn't often that necessary, but what often is necessary was 6 guys with demolition brands, because those guys are like public enemy number 1, and if they have any way of dealing with them, it can become a real hassle. However, if you have 6 of them, so 2 berserkers and 4 regular chuds, it's like you have so many more opportunities to set the bomb off. Because even if your berserkers get taken out, rather than having like 1 guy who maybe can pass a courage 3 test to set the bomb off, you've got like 3 now, and you can do it as many times as you want as long as they're all in base contact. So yeah, it's very easy to trade up with the bomb because you can set it off with only like two or 3 guys in range. Obviously, the bomb itself is worth about 25 points per the demolition team, but it is also like, if you can take out an important part of a 36 to 40 model elf list, if you set off a good bomb detonation, it's usually like 6 to 7 elves or something like that, and that is a good trade. Even though technically it's
a
even
bit like
points wise ish.
it's a bit like having a massive pile of bows or playing Black Riders or something like that. It gives you some matchups where it really skews in your favor and there's nothing your opponent can do about it. But then it's also skill testing enough that if you play against someone who isn't as experienced, hasn't encountered the bomb very much before, then they might just make a massive error, completely lose themselves the game, and then you'd be able to pick up 12 points. So it's quite a good, demolition teams are probably quite a good model to have in these kind of tournaments, because they might just get you some really good matchups. But also, if you do play, if you are trying to win the tournament with 4-2, getting some 12-0s, you play against someone who's a bit more local, not played as many hundreds, and hasn't played against the bomb, and then you've just killed their leader, and you're like, okay, perfect, that's the game.
Yeah.
My only the thing that I questioned, and originally when I first saw this list, I don't think it was correctly written down. The banner not being in Lurtz's warband. I mean, I would always prefer to put my banner with Lurtz.
I'm assuming this is preparing for the possibility that whole warband might have to go bang.
I suppose. Yeah, that's
there's not going to be models.
A fair point.
Yeah, there's not necessarily going. He hasn't loaded that warband. If you look, there's 10 models in it, I think.
There's 13 because the demo team's 3.
No. Oh yes, 3. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, 13. Yeah, 13. Sorry, I miscounted that. Yeah, I mean it's acceptable to if you can trade favorably with that, then yeah, it's good. But demolition teams are surprisingly kind of hard to deal with if you don't have magic. There's not actually a good way of doing it, really, unless if your opponent isn't thick and doesn't place them somewhere where you can just walk up and break them, and you can't shoot them to death. Shooting them to death is not viable at all. I'd like to see there be some sort of greater risk to jogging around the battlefield with a bomb, because that seems a little bit insane to me.
Not themey though, Dave. Not themey. Not themey. Shooting is not good against them.
Grimmer Wormtongue is like, what's that? With his fucking candle, almost drops hot on it. You know what I mean? That's. I don't know if Uruk-hai know how dangerous they are, but yeah, they should. I think there should be something more risky. But you can't just shoot them with arrows. But I don't know. Easy.
I think they're objectively a fun, interesting bit of tech. However, I am fed up of playing against them.
They combo well with a lot of stuff.
I honestly, this Isengard list has 2 of the things that I hate most about the game at the moment, which is bombs and siege weapons. And part of that is because I have now become a Dragon Emperor lover. But the other reason is because they're for siege games. They're for. It just doesn't feel right in this supposedly skirmish game that I see siege weapons and bombs. Because you don't just rock up. It's it's a skirmish. It's a little fight, and it's here's my fucking 500-kilogram bomb that's got 3-inch plated steel.
The problem is, if you're it's a skirmish, then you're why is the King of Gondor here? That doesn't really.
It's cool. It's fun. No one looks across the table and goes.
Ballistas are cool and fun, though, don't we? That's the problem.
Nobody looks across the table.
The issue is, historically, the best things in this game are the things that ruin the fun of people who are aha, I want to play with my Gilgalad.
That's not this game. That's every single game.
I feel personally targeted, Dave, but you are correct. Yes.
There's a reason I'm playing a control deck in Lorcana.
The things that are good in this game are the things that deny your ability to hit with stick. Magic is amazing, siege weapons and shooting are amazing, bombs are amazing. It's masses of guys that don't die is amazing. Easterlings with 2 high fire value is amazing. It's not about. Unfortunately, even though that's kind of what everyone wants to see, this game is not about rolling better than the other guy with your AMR. You know what I mean? And if that's what the game becomes in the new edition, I will like it less.
Well, that's part of the problem there is that AMR is big poopy.
Yeah, well, I know that. What I'm saying is if it comes to a point where the only way to win is to have a bigger hero than the other guy, then that's fucking...
That sounds great. I'm all for it. Come on, Jay, bring it on.
Yeah,
Gilgalad at every tournament for every
on the subject of AMR, which I think is quite a great model to use as an example, is he's a perfectly fairly costed profile and therefore atrocious to play.
Yes. Yeah. You put him next to Durnhelm when you're
you don't put him next to Durnhelm, you put him next to Thorin.
Or Thorin, yeah.
I mean, he cost the same as Thorin, so
Yeah.
Right. We've got a whole bevy of other tournaments to go through, so we're going to do this in a slightly truncated fashion than what we normally do.
congratulations, Jake.
Congrats, Jake, picking up another win. So the first of our whistle stop tour through the 4 GBHL 90s, because there's been a few internet trolls complaining that we don't cover every tournament. This week we are. So let us know in the comments if you like it or not. Yes, Dewey, that's targeted at you. The first up, we've got Muster the Bro Hiram, a GBHL 90. First place was taken by Miles Sage with Felbings of Mirkwood. Second was Luke Hilder using AOL. Third was Sam Fitch using Moria. Best painted was won by Cameron Bell. And the official most sporting nice guy was Thomas Denny.
Well done, everyone. Well done for your podiums.
Generated piece of art, but I like
yeah, it's. I have confused feelings about this picture.
Yeah.
By the way,
No huge
this is a
surprises there on the podium.
slight tangent before we get into this. I just want to point out that once again, the Scottish 100 was completely dominated by the English. Sorry, guys.
Well, it continues the tradition of the Brits going north to plunder the Scottish region for GBHL points.
Yeah, exactly.
A tradition as old as time.
Yeah, it goes back to before England was even a country. Anyway, let's move on.
Cool.
Yes, I mean, how many points was this?
I don't know.
I think it was 500.
If the people want us to cover every tournament, this is the level of coverage that they get.
Hang on, just a sec. I'm looking this up. I want to know.
We could cover 3 more tournaments.
I've got it in front of me now.
It's
Dave,
700 points.
That's exactly what I said. 700 points.
Felbings, I don't think is that good, but the Spider Queen is that good that you can sort of forgive it for existing. Like, I've always said that Felbings is basically just worse than Spider Queen allied into Mordor, but you know, spiders are
700
fun.
points. It certainly is
fun. Yeah, and well, yeah. I mean, we know how good that is at 700, don't we? But like, it can certainly do a job. 700 is where you start getting like decent numbers. If you want to have a drum, you can have that, and a captain. So you got some stuff that works. And 890s are kind of the place to run lists like that. I think, like, it's not a world beater, but it's interesting enough to be engaging. It's like when I like Kirith Ungol for me. Like, I still love it, but I acknowledge that in a world where people are running actually really strong lists, it's maybe a bit too weak to be seriously competitive. AOL isn't that, though. Get it together, Luke.
Yeah. AOL is just very, very, very good. 700 plus, obviously, is very consistent. Luke Hilder is not the kind of player we want to see playing AOL. He should be playing.
Yeah, I was very
only.
surprised to see Luke playing AOL.
Again. Luke is an early adopter of AOL to the point he actually did a lot of science behind it, where you should have seen some of his early lists where, like, I think I saw one, this was before the nerfs where they changed it, but he had Ashrak and 3 Goblin Shamans who all channeled Fury, which is like, and no Druzag.
Does Fury stack?
No, but it just spreads it out.
Right, okay. I was wondering if you get 3 6-up saves or something, but yeah.
No, it was certainly science. But
that was definitely something.
I don't know how he's building it these days, but his brain is big and he likes to do things his own way to figure out whether or not they work or not.
Right, just very quickly, Sam Fitch had 2 Cave Drakes, which is absolute Giga Chad territory.
That is fabulous.
We're not gonna, like, big shout out to you and Miles for taking potentially softer lists, especially Sam with double Cave Drakes, because Cave Drakes are hilarious models. I love them. Next tournament.
Matt, run us through this next event.
Boom. I played this one. It was 3 rounds. It was 500 points. I had an unexpectedly free weekend, and I need to get 6 scores so I can try and qualify myself for the Masters again, which is actually quite a big ask. I asked Farmer 2 days before. Well, I didn't go to Clydewater because I thought the scoring was so bad that I wasn't willing to go 5 hours up to Scotland to play it. So I played this 90, and I asked Dave what I should play, and he said Riders of Devon, and then gave me a list, and then I played it, and then I won all my games 12-0.
Was it 500 points?
Was over. It was 500 points, yeah.
Wait, you won every game 12-0?
Yeah, I might have won one 10-0.
Okay.
Oh my god, that's just...
Pathetic. Disgusting. For
Matt,
reference,
did
that
you
is
run
the
it exactly how I run it?
Yeah.
Nice.
that's the
Oh, so you give Matt lists, but you won't give me lists.
no. The difference there is Matt said, "Give me a list to win a 90," and he said, "Yeah, you're good enough to win a 90. Here's the list."
Well,
So
no,
what
I mean, it
happened
was a bit. The conversation was a bit more
The
detailed.
conversation was a bit more like, Matt was like, "What's good at 500 points?" And I was like, "Well, Matt," he's like, "500 point one day 90," and I was like, "Well, at 500 points, I was like, I hate all armies at 500 points."
Yeah.
So the most fun I had recently at 500 points was when I played at 90 myself with the Riders of Theoden, and I was like, "Oh, this is great! You just run in and go bang, and all your games are over in half an hour, regardless of win or loss, basically.
Yeah.
Not literally, but like it's pretty quick." And I was like, and we had a little back and forth, and he said, "That sounds interesting. That sounds intriguing. What was the list?" And I was like, "It was this." And he was like, "Aemir?" And I was like, "Yes, Aemir." And that was basically the whole conversation. And it seems to have worked. So good job, Matt.
Yeah.
Did it go bang and you ran everyone over?
Yeah, basically.
Would-
It was a 3-day night. It was a 3-round 90 with more players than there would be multiple 3-0s, and I basically need all the points I can get. So I wanted to play
That's
something that gets me as many victory points as possible. So it was a really good choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also asked Yakov for what was good at 500 points, and he was a bit less helpful. So I razzed him until he gave me an answer. And his suggestion was the Serpent Horde. And as you can see, that also went 3-0, but got less victory points. So if I'd have played Serpent Horde, I'd probably have come second.
Wow. Fewer victory points, Matt. I expect
Nice.
better from you.
All right, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Thanks. Cool. Also, shout out to Harry Crew for doing well with the Shire. Love to see it.
He won Lords of Battle 12-0 in
What
round
was he
one.
against?
I've got no idea, but it was very surprising.
Champion. He must have just shot whatever it was off the board comically easily, right? Surely.
Yeah, presumably. He did have like
50
something models. So like if those 17 bows just hit a lot, then
shout out to getting the Shire and the stats. I mean, I played at 450. I played Defenders of the Shire once with Merry Pippin, Frodo, Farmer Maggot, I think it was, and that was a lot of fun. And that was at 450, and I got like 50 models. But it does. I mean, I had to play contest against Helm Hammerhand, which is a bit sad because he kills hobbits on you know.
And if your fight won, he can faint.
Yeah, if he wants to be a bully, he can just punch him to death for fun. Like, my fists to kill these children. Bam, bam, bam.
Looks like you played against Moria in the Lords of Battle game.
Nice.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I really love Riders of Theoden, and now I'm desperate to play them again at something. And I'm also quite desperate.
Well.
So the other thing that I really liked about playing Riders of Theoden is that I'd watch the Return of the King like the Friday night before the tournament when I was talking to Dave. And so I wanted to do that. And also now that we're going to have to do like old-fashioned Rohirrim from sort of December time when the new edition comes out, I need to get all of my like Return of the King Rohan in.
Riders of Theoden is an absolute if you take it to a tournament, you're almost guaranteed to have a great time because something crazy will happen. Like I spent 61 points of might in a Lords of Battle game with Riders of Theoden.
Nice.
So yeah. For those of you wondering how that happened, it was against Rise of the Necromancer. So they kept coming back and I just kept killing them. It's
just love killing.
If you're on the fence about Riders of Theoden, borrow it off a friend, take it at 500, 600, 700 points, whatever points, you're going to have a fun time because you just charge in.
And you can just guarantee.
Yeah, you can guarantee.
And you can guarantee that someone in your gaming group has it as well to lend you. Definitely.
Yeah, you can also guarantee that Theoden at some point will charge in, roll a 3 high when he's only got 2 might left, and either instantly die or fall prone off his horse or something.
My personal favorite thing with that list at 500 in particular, because there's just not enough stuff that basically any army that has tools that deal with it also doesn't have the ability to withstand its full mojo. So if you just run straight in and go bang, like you say, right, death, everyone's calling a heroic combat. Like, oh, Durham just rolled a 3 high. Well, that's all her might gone, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Just like, oh,
yeah, that's fine because she's killing 6 models this turn. Or
it's so destructive.
Yeah, if you're playing at like at 700 or 800 points and you charge in with 4 heroes and call hero combats and kill like 15 models, that's basically enough to win the game often at that points level. So at 500 points when you do it and people have like 30 models, it's just absolutely comical.
Yeah.
Right.
Moving on to the next event.
It's also more likely to run into someone who has nothing in their list that's fight 5, and those because you just can't lose. Do you want to wait till I'm done rolling? Because it's theoretically possible that you will not roll a dice this whole game, my friend.
Or like when they've got like fight 3 troops, and you're just like, oh, gambling's now like a proper chopper as well. Anyway, should we move on? Yeah, Brides of Dead is great. I'm gonna
got a big old chopper as well.
Big fan.
The next event was held in Liverpool, Mirkwood Mayhem, the Light of Valinor, GBHL 90. Continuing the mat dominance was Matthew Hare bringing a Lothlorien Rivendell Fellowship soup. Alex Johnson took second with Kingdom of Moria. Matt Skinner took third with Beornings. Alex F was best painted, and somebody won most sporting. But again, we're trying to cover every tournament, so you don't get all the results, do we?
Yeah.
We at least get the point. We need to make sure we at least get the points value for this, because having any idea what these army lists look like,
750 for this one.
Cool. Having any idea what the army list might look like is impossible if you don't know the points level. Lothru Fellowship, like that. I played that at the GT, so that was 700. Because I'm imagining that's going to be something along the lines of Kurdan, Eristor, Haldir, Boromir.
You're absolutely incorrect. It's Boromir, Celeborn, and Glorfindel.
Oh, even better.
It's it's a 27.
Boromir is an honorary Lord of the West.
Yeah,
he pretty much is. He is the fifth Beetle, in the sense that he basically fixes both the biggest problem in Loth and Rivendell, and both of them together, which is you don't have a cheap Might Caddy, you don't have a Marcher, and your big beaters are comically expensive. So it's like, oh, what does Boromir need help with? Oh, he doesn't like getting shot, and he needs a bit of magic support. It's like, you have Kurdan or you have Galadriel. It's like, great. Like, I'm pretty sure Galadriel and Boromir are having some sort of affair. That's how good they work together.
That's why she didn't give him a gift. The gift was given the night before, you know?
Yeah.
She gave him a smooch.
On the screen. But yeah, I mean, like, Boromir is fantastic. Phenomenal profile. And yeah, I mean, that's a badass combo, to be fair. I like Celeborn. I just think he's bad. Glorfindel is great, and Boromir goes really well with the Lords of the West in general, because they're big fighty guys, and Boromir's like, I do that and I go fast.
And he can call moves and still have a shit ton of might left. Whereas if you call a move with the other Lords of the West, you're like, sad times.
Yeah, exactly. And then second, we've got Kingdom of Moria, which that's the Khazad-dûm variant, which is Balin. Presumably he had Gimli, and I feel like Floy is fun, but off that 7, I think Floy comes into it probably about 800, so maybe he didn't have Floy.
What do you think he had instead?
I reckon he probably had a King's Champion.
Yeah, you are precisely correct.
Balin, Gimli, King's Champion is a pretty strong combo.
It's very choppy.
It's about as good as you can get in this list, really, just because, you know, it's not great, but it's solid. You know, it's fine. And then you get a good, solid amount of bods. I like the version where you run loads of Vault Wardens, just because I think spears are good. Hot take. But also, that's not the only way to play it. I just wouldn't like. I don't like playing without spears personally.
Did you hazard a guess at the Beornings list, Matt?
Now that you've asked, it sounds like it's going to be. I mean, it has to just be 2 bears and however many Beornings that gets you.
Yes, that is correct.
12 Beornings? How many you get?
No, 15.
No, 15.
Yeah.
No, more than 50. 17.
Oh, sorry. I can't count.
That's 17. A lot of Beornings.
Yes, it's a lot of Beornings.
How many bows would you have? 6 or less?
4 bows plus Grimbeorn.
That was
also, Denby, outrageous. You didn't call Farmer on using lessons.
Farmer really hates it when I do it, so I make an effort to not do it because he's one of my best friends.
I get
and you don't want to look smug either, do you? So
no.
I'm driving him to Ripon next weekend, and I'm injured, so I'm willing to slap him if he gets too.
Yeah, exactly. Like the relationship is already slightly fraught at the moment. We haven't seen each other in about a month, so yeah. And moving on to the fourth, and sorry, Beorning's good at all points levels. Scenario dependent, they can win basically anything, any tournament as long as you've got the right.
I was about to
scenarios.
say that is an army I would use without spears because they basically don't need them because they're absolute beasts.
They lost Heirlooms 5-0. I'm not entirely sure how that happens. I guess nobody dug it up, or it was one of the ones where there's 3.
5-0.
Yeah, 5-0 is really weird. It was against
5-0 is
Lothlorien
impossible.
Rivendell Fellowship list.
5-0 is impossible unless it was dug up and no one had it.
Did Miles?
No, so it could be
You can score 3 from
wounding leader, breaking the enemy, and having a banner.
breaking's only worth 2.
Right,
Having a banner and your opponent doesn't have a banner.
Yeah,
right, sure.
banner 2, breaking 2.
But he doesn't have a
wounding
banner because
leader.
he's only lost.
The Rivendell one, the Lothlorien Rivendell Fellowship one. Yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
sorry.
Let's look at our final tournament of the weekend. It was a big autumn day out. First place was Miles Sage with Thranduil's Halls. Second place was Arash Hussein with Serpent Horde and Far Harad. And third place was somebody who Stephen has in his notes but won't tell me the name of, playing Riders of Theoden.
I do apologise. I want to say it was Mitch Finn. I'm literally checking right this second.
Miles Sage, didn't Miles Sage win?
Yes, he won back-to-back 90s.
Back-to-back 90s in a weekend. What an absolute hero. That is such an efficient GBHL point weekend.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, what an absolute
Also, with
hero.
2 different army lists at 2 different points levels.
Has this happened before in your in heroic stats history?
We assume that's not an intern typo, right?
What do you mean? The Miles
Definitely.
Sage thing?
Yeah.
No, he did win. He did win both. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, sick.
Definitely. Oh wow. It's definitely not happened on heroic stats before. I think I remember last year. It wasn't a win-win, but there was one of the London tournaments. There was a Saturday Sunday thing, and it was 2 different tournaments, and someone got like first and second or something. That was the closest I remember seeing before, and that might have been pre-90s existing, so those would have been 80s. So it's a bit less cool, but also I think it's just pretty badass to do that well.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a special dice for that. Yeah, I think there needs to be. Could we fuse 2 GBHL 90 dice together for him?
I can definitely
like
persuade Bert to glue 2
like a
together.
D12 or something. A special GBHL D12.
a D12, yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Useless.
Yeah.
All but useless.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Well done.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
done, Miles.
It was Legolas Thranduil with like 17 models. It's the Thranduil's Halls list. And the scenarios played just for reference. It was Divide and Conquer. It was Seize the Prize. It was Breakthrough. And then the final one was Assassination. So No
Right.
March winning Seize the Prize was pretty good. Winning Breakthrough is also pretty good when he got so few numbers. But I guess if Thranduil does heavy lifting.
Was Thranduil kitted? Because when Clubley played something similar to that last year, in the summer, which was not last year, it was this year, he used Thranduil very minimally kitted with the crown and sword and then no armor. And then he had a late-time captain.
I believe it was a relatively kitted.
So, like, as in he had a mount. Because if he has a mount, I can see him doing the work. If he's on foot, he's like, it takes a while to get anywhere. Badass.
Congratulations as well to. Oh, yep.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to congratulate Oliver Logan on winning Most Sporting and Richard Croydon on Best Painted, which puts him and Alex now joint in the lead on 5 Best Painted wins for the award that everyone cares about the most.
Yeah.
Yes.
Arash playing 7 Horn of Farhad. Now, I think that's at 500. That's probably just Suladan and a Mahud King. I would have thought.
I think it was Betrayer Mahud King from. I didn't fully see his list because the only moment I did see his list was he dropped a model in front of me, which I picked up for him.
Poison blowpipes, I suppose, are pretty good when they're rerolling.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Betrayer Mahud King.
Interesting. I don't know if you'd get the numbers that way, but I guess at 500, you do what you like. I think for me, I like Suladan more because he's cheaper and obviously amazing value.
He's just so efficient.
The banner synergizes really nicely with the king, but yeah, full rerolling blowpipes has its place, and as Jobby has been going with, has proved that like like the hit on threes and full rerolls to wound that's pretty egregious, and there's theoretically no limit on how many of them you can have. So at short range, it can be pretty brutal. So I'm sure that was part of the plan there. And as we know, 500 points, Riders of Théoden.
Very good.
Slaps.
Yeah. Shout out Mitch. He was lovely to play against in the final game, even if he did absolutely pull my pants down.
Oh, you played this tournament, did you see?
Yeah, I did. I was the ringer, and I was doing my best to seal Club and 90, as you've been.
What did you play?
I played Dragon Emperor, Captain, Dragon Emperor, and then just dudes.
Yeah.
It was surprisingly good at 28 models at 500 points, I would say. Dragon Emperor is still very good.
Did you have a drum as well?
Yeah.
Did everyone tell you the army looked terrible?
No, I had about 10 people come up to me and tell me it was beautiful. I also one-banged Azog with the Dragon Emperor, a Cataphract, and 2 Easterlings in one turn, which was pretty nice. I love that. Cool. Shall we move on to some comments?
Before comments, we have GBHL 100 podium stats.
Oh, fuck me, there's so many.
The trend kind of continues. Evil out in front, Mordor on 8 podiums, Dragon Emperor and Isengard tying on 5. Then joint third, we've got Serpent Horde and Riders of Théoden. Angmar, AOL, and Dark Denizens and Mirkwood in fourth on 3 podiums each. A smattering of good armies in joint fifth, with Goblin Town sneaking in there, and then a whole bunch of stuff on 1.
Yeah, it's basically what we were
expected.
seeing at the end of last year was Mordor, Dragon Emperor, Serpent Horde doing well. Obviously, Isengard is relatively new this year, although JHI was trying it last year. Riders of Théoden has had a big resurgence this year as well. Otherwise, Angmar and AOL, not surprised at all. And Dark Denizens is obviously just Spider Queen drops, courtesy of Dave and Jakob.
You guys must be super excited for the new edition so that you don't have to look at exactly the same list of factions next year.
Yeah,
Well, you say that, but
I have a lot of trepidation about the actual rules, but the meta becoming fresh is exciting to me. Yes,
I am very much looking forward to new things being good and everyone working stuff out instead of me being like, I have to build a list that can deal with this because I know I'm going to play it at the event if I want to win.
Are you looking forward to seeing that Arnold number shooting up?
Let's move on to the comments.
I don't think people are going to get Arnold done in time to actually do well with them this year.
No, I agree.
I think
If
people
only somebody already had it.
I think that
now will not do well with them. Yeah,
I think when you look at the points value of the 100-point tournaments coming up as well, I don't think Arna really loves them. So you've got in September you've got a Dyson Men, which is 700 points.
800
points. It's not that great there.
It
doesn't give you like the tools to win the games.
The new stuff makes 800 much better than it used to be, because if you take 4 named heroes, you take Arvidui, Malbeth, Fella Guy and Ranger Fella Guy, Fella Guy being the mounted Fella Guy and Ranger Fella Guy, whose names are escaping me right now, and then you take, I think it's 3 or possibly 4 Cav, you get 56 models, and you have March, you have 2 strikers, you have 22 bow shots because your Ranger guy gets 2. You've got a second striker in the Ranger.
You've got,
it's not bad.
You've got a lot on the numbers, but when you actually break it down and you look at it in comparison to the armies that you've got on here, like it doesn't have any way of controlling the board like Mordor does. It doesn't have like the super speedy movement, the Fight 5 and the big banner. It doesn't have like the shooting and cool stuff of Isengard. It doesn't have the 6-inch banner of Serpent Horde. Like you still don't actually have the tools to win the game. You're just you've just got like lots of quite good models and like lots of quite good models.
Models is a kind of board control though.
It kind of is, but the problem is you're still not necessarily going to be able to beat like a good player with a Spider Queen at Recon or a similar at Seize the Prize, Heirlooms, all this kind of stuff. Like you still have to like win the scenarios, and it might make you might be insane at like 12 of them. But you know, I don't think you would play it, Dave. Even if it's...
I would play it, but I think Arno is kind of meh. I don't like it as a concept.
But yeah, and then you've got a bunch of like 500 and 550 tournaments and a bunch of like 1,000 tournaments coming up. So in terms of 500, you've got like Lord of the Imps and Berticon, and then
That's 5
tiers is like
I think.
555, and then you've got 1,000 points of unnumbered tiers and things, and then you've got Sterling, which is good versus evil. It will probably be pretty good at that. So it's, there's not like lots of things that you're like desperate to play at, but we'll see.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, 650 is obviously its comfort zone, just because it's sort of hard to beat the efficiency of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little more flexible at other points levels now than it was.
Shall we move on to
Yeah,
some
it's only
comments?
gotten better. Yes, let's. There's a lot to get through.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Carson Howard says, finally caught up on these videos. Sorry I've been away, boys. We've missed you, Carson.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were actually, because we haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you commenting again.
Davy Gravy says, Strider Cup is not the longest running event, Stephen. It's only been going since 2018. #fact checked.
Yeah, fair enough.
He also says, which childhood friend did Stephen kick out the team now for Carl to join?
Well, if you read the latest Bugle article, it was my friend Louis, who I went to school with, who I also was one of the groomsmen at his wedding. And the reason I kicked him out is because he had a kid last year and therefore can't come to tournaments as much because he also lives in the arse end of Devon. And because I'm just obsessed with getting points. So
Leon
Also,
Smith says,
I don't know him,
oh,
but he didn't exactly go to loads of tournaments anyway.
yeah, he's on the team because he's my friend. He's not on the team because he wants to be on the team.
Have you already done your purge for next year and locked in and have sort of roster ideas, or was this like the summer purge?
This was a purge just because we were like, oh, actually, we like this guy who's currently got no team. We've been bonding really well with him. We think we'd like to adopt him. We had a trial period at Ardicon where he got on really well with another one of the founding members. So he voted on it and we all voted yes. So I do, however, have a plan to purge 8 of the 9 current members on the team next year for the top 8 members next year and myself, obviously.
He's got even more childhood friends to purge, don't you worry.
Me? Leon Smith says, great pod as always, guys. Hope to get to play some of you this weekend at 4 Makes a Fellowship. Looking forward to the new version of the game. What rules additions would you most like to see? About this weekend, I can't wait to see you, Leon. It's always great to hang out with you. Hopefully, our team plays your team and we have a lovely time. That's at the Brum team event. Oh, yeah, we want to try and win.
We need those points.
But fun. We're all about fun.
Yeah. What list is it you're taking, John? I forgot. I can't remember.
I'm taking the exact list that I won most sporting with at last year's Battle of Clydewater.
Okay.
Which is
Vanquishers then. Yeah. Which rules additions would you most like to see? I would like to see
It's a big question.
That's a really big question.
I've got some.
I would like to see the
number
basic
1.
Oh, go ahead.
We did a whole episode on ours, Matt. Go.
All monsters should get monstrous charge because they're monsters that are charging.
Yeah,
that's obvious. Number 2, stop being able to mess them about with wizards. It's not fun. People like monsters. Monsters should do cool things.
Yeah, trolls should get resistant to magic or something like that.
Yeah. Even if it's just resistant to magic, so you get to roll a dice to see if you get to do stuff with your troll, that would be good enough.
Yeah.
Or you either have to do that or you have to make them comically cheap.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And obviously you can't do that because then I'm going to rock up with 12 and if they're 30 points each, it's like, oh, guess I'm buying 10 cave trolls. Excellent.
Oh, you don't already have 10 cave trolls? That's embarrassing.
I have 2 cave trolls and a bird.
You have a cave troll. Cool. Moving on to the next comment. Josh Cole 1255 says, totally agree on Glorfindel. I hate the fact that its mighty hero, a first age Noldor, is weaker than like Guritz. Yeah, very good point. With Legolas, I think he should be 3 attacks purely because of those 2 daggers. Most of the time, if models in MESBG have 2 weapons, they usually get the extra attack heroes. Heroes usually get the extra attack, so him and Aristor should get the extra attack. That is an interesting one because I know a lot of this comes as a crossover from old 40k days where people will be like, you have a hand weapon and a pistol, or you have 2 hand weapons, therefore you get +1 attack. I absolutely understand what you're saying. However, I think the 3 attack threshold should be for heroes of note. I don't know if Aristor is necessarily there. Legolas, yeah, sure, give him 3 attacks.
I don't know.
Fine.
I think that's kind of arbitrary, but I think it's like 3 attacks is like 3 attacks should be for models that are like combat specialists. So Legolas shouldn't have it for that reason. I know I know he's good at fighting, and we see him do it all the time. But he is an archer specialist. He has an archery special rule. He doesn't also need to be good at combat. Like
what I would
he's
say to
already
this,
like nice for his points. You know.
Yeah, I think Legolas is a really good example at the moment of a model that is costed perfectly for being very, very playable without being too fairly costed to be unplayable. And I think Josh has touched on a really good point here, and it's part of the sort of what seems to be the genesis of the new edition and the sort of philosophy of the new edition, which is if you want, you can have your Fellowship Legolas, and then you can have him in all of your Hobbit, Battle of the Five Army type scenes, and you can just give him his 3rd attack in that, because he is just like balling out of control there and chopping loads of orcs' heads off. So like you can sort of play with it a bit like that. And there used to be 2, didn't there? In the previous edition, there was like, what was the edition for? There was like Legolas and Megalas.
Yeah.
One had 3 attacks.
That was it was a profile from the Battle of the Five Armies like pamphlet that was released. So like half released they put out.
Moving on to the next
It was
one.
also Fight 7. It was crazy.
Oh. Axel Svogard Tegfelslov 8443. I'm really sorry for butchering your name if that is your name. If it's just your YouTube name, then well done with making a complicated name. Elrond will receive Malbeth's Foresight rule. Unfortunately, he will get it exactly as it is currently written, meaning it only protects Arnor models. When I first read this comment on, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, it was like 1 a.m. I was in bed and I laughed out loud, and my girlfriend looked at me with a very grumpy expression as I think I'd just woken her up. So thank you for this comment, because I love it. That would be hilarious if they did something like this. I would hate them for it, but I would laugh about it for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to paraphrase Desmond Dentressi's comment. Going to have to disagree on piercing being a good part of the game. Fuck that mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough.
He gives some good reasoning.
You do provide some nice arguments. I think the point is that when it's a D6 versus D6 grind fest, when you're both strength 3, you need something to mix it up and add a bit of variance there. However, Matt, I know you hate variance because you love big banner and roll dice and get 6. So
my problem with this logic is that it implies that the goblins would somehow be benefiting more from this change, and it's like goblins already have picks. Like, what, that doesn't change anything. They're already viable and valid in the way that they are. You could argue that maybe they shouldn't be able to have it, but like, I don't know. For me, I just think it's like they already have that bonus. That what I'm getting at is the fact that it shouldn't be like guarded by a single kind of weapon. It should just be something universal. But people always say this. They say the goblins benefit from more than anything, and it's like, I don't think that's correct. Although, I mean, if you have that as a huge problem, one thing you could say is, in order to do this, you have to have the same defense or higher than your opponent. There you go. That changes it immediately, because you are actually sacrificing something. Or you have to be able to lose enough defense, because if you're starting at maybe you have to be D4 or higher or something. I don't know. I still think it's good. I like Piercing Strike, and I think if you don't, shame on you.
So another long post, and Michael Haskell gives us permission to be selective. He reflected on the lists from Strider Cup, reminded him of one he took to Throne of Skulls 22, which was a lot of fun, with a what-if narrative on the redemption of Boromir. After he failed to persuade Frodo, Boromir fled in shame, didn't die, and eventually got back home to Minas Tirith. And with this theme, he took Boromir, captain of Gondor, banner 6 guard with horse, 8 knights Minas Tirith, Faramir with 1 knight of Minas Tirith with a banner, 12 knights Minas Tirith, Gandalf the White on Shadowfax, and Peregrine Took.
I really like the story that he read. This is another one that I read when he first posted it. It is a really cute little like. It's an army list which is written which isn't there to be incredibly competitive, although it's a usable way of using Gandalf. When you have a full cav army that's not Rivendell Knights or Rohan, you know. But yeah, this is a really, really, really nice idea. I like that this alternative timeline.
I love the mental picture I've got that whilst it makes perfect sense film-wise and narrative-wise for Pippin to be in the list, in actuality, in the game, he's running around as the only non-mounted model. He doesn't get the passenger rules.
Yeah.
With his
because
little 4-inch move.
You rock up to a theming tournament and your opponent's like, oh yeah, so do you mind if I deploy him as a passenger like it is on the model? You're just like, I'm afraid that's against the rules.
Yeah. But this is an 80. Well, I'm sorry, my friend. Look, clearly he's a separate profile. Move him 4 inches and carry on with the game.
Gabe the Fish says, started building a Rivendell army this year, so very interesting to see some thoughts on most of their heroes. Played a few casual games, but hope they get a few buffs, as it sounds like they need a little more oomph. Enjoy the episode, cheers. Also, would like to see Rivendell allied with Rangers if Aragorn is leading them, which I don't think can be a Green Alliance, as the link is mentioned in the books and the films.
You can have Aragorn from the Fellowship with Rivendell.
Yeah. You can't, if you could go for something along the lines of the Hunt for Gollum kind of twins and Aragorn allied with Rivendell, that would be quite nice. You are absolutely correct in that the Rivendell heroes do need just a little bit more oomph.
I have a feeling that Rivendell probably doesn't need changing a whole lot. I think if it might be a situation of if other things get changed or nerfed, Rivendell may just rise up a little bit just by the process of things getting changed. Because I actually think they're quite healthy in a lot of ways. They have, partly because Círdan is an unbelievable toolbox hero and they have some really powerful and effective big boys. The main thing, if they got an efficient 3-might marcher, like say you just ported Irolas and made an elf version of him, so a 3-might march defense character with fight 6 instead and maybe a bit more points, dropped him in there, Rivendell would be so heckin' playable, you guys. Oh my god.
You wouldn't even need to change his name, you know?
In before Círdan gets sent to Legends.
Oh, blimey.
Círdan sent to the West.
Fabid6602 says, as an Elven player, I found the discussion super interesting and I must also share my wish/opinion. I think your GBHL statistics alone speak for themselves that certain factions, including elves, need a little rework to make the game even more diverse. As one commenter already said, uniqueness of the Elven warrior profiles would be very interesting. High elves fight 6 but range 4+. Thranduil's Horse specialise in bow, hitting 3+, and abilities not sure that further strengthens it. And Lorien's already very solid. Overall, elves are solid but have too many weaknesses, mainly too small an army for the killing power they have. And building slightly larger elven armies would change a lot. But the Rivendell heroes, I think the only thing missing is the uniqueness. All 3 hero profiles are expensive, somehow similar, and not very efficient. One idea, Elrond, solid fighter like now, but a little buff bubble. I like that. Gilly, he is the mighty hero of the elves, and currently weaker than Melandil. That's where his focus should be, i.e. 6 might like Boromir. I assume that's what he means by 6H. And something that gives killing power like 3 heroic strengths. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want...
Heroic strikes?
I wouldn't want to go overboard with any buff on anything. As much as I love a profile, it's more unhealthy to overbuff a profile than anything else.
What I would say is that I think that these two commenters have really hit on something, and Dave, I think what you were saying also sort of says this as well. Is that elves in this edition where you can ally anything into anything, things within the edition that have changed over the course of the edition, like changing allying from Fortitude to Valor, elves have been designed around this, and because elves have always been so powerful to ally in some fight 5 elves to back up your line of whatever other things, and when that leaves the game, you actually do have a little bit more freedom to start twisting the dials on what your elves can do, because you're not trying to make them fair for allying into other things and so on. So we might see some changes to elves. We might see something cool happen. We might see someone get March. You know, even something like if Gildor got a second might point, that would be astronomical, because then you've got a shaman marcher with 2 might and 4 will for transfixers and 2 might 6 attacks.
Sauron has 2 might and March.
Sorry?
Mouth of Sauron has 2 might and March, and he's the same points.
Exactly. So you can dial it up a bit, because people do like elves a lot. Elves are really, really cool. So I would hope that I would say to these commenters, I would hope that there are some slight buffs to these elf armies to make them more competitive on their own, because they will be on their own moving forward.
You can make them unique flavor. Elves are kind of a prisoner of, as you say, they're a prisoner of the alliance matrix, specifically because you can't argue that Rivendell wouldn't ally with almost any good faction, because they are good and they are broadly aligned with every single good faction that's in there, and they existed for the entire period that any of these good factions existed. So it's like, thematically, you can't say no,
Yeah.
But really, like, no one is like really keen to play like Rivendell and Rohan. Probably, it's more about, if like hypothetically that could have happened. So if you're doing an alliance matrix, it's like, yeah, that makes sense to have that allowed, but it also holds you back in terms of how you can actually balance your game. And I think once you do say no alliances, it allows you to open up and make things more skewy, and it hopefully, I'm fingers crossed, they lean into that, and they'll make every list will have its own thing going on, like something weird and kind of broken, but also part of the grander scheme of balancing stuff.
And going back to using Heroic March as one particular example, and forgive me if you've mentioned this in previous podcasts since the new edition's been announced, if you just don't give an army a effective, points efficient, reasonable Heroic March thing, that army is going to be close to unplayable at the tournament level, unless it has something else going for it that's absolutely astronomically good, because you're not going to get to seize the prize, you're not going to get off the board in recon, you're not going to get to the middle and divide and conquer, blah 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 blah. Like, those things really do need thought.
Ooh. The other point he said, sorry, I'm just going to finish up because I don't want to leave off Glorfindel despite me hating him out of the 3. Glorfindel, Terror of the Nazgul, Noblest Fire of the Elves. I think if he gets Hadafang ability and a Master Forge sword, he can fulfill his role. Alternatively, he could stay where he is now, but it would be a lot cheaper. Carry on, John, sorry.
Our next comment is For Farthings Gaming again. So much shade thrown in these comments in this video. One day I'll make it to a GBHL event. Chitter, chitter, gents. We would love to see you. Yes. Yeah, we do love a bit of shade. Although I don't like the new shade rules.
I do. As a non-Angmar player, I love not having a -1.
I think they're interesting. I think anti-shooting working that way is actually a bigger change that people are realizing, because it has never worked that way before, and it will change the shooting game. Anyway.
Yes. Kieran Barton Vio says, I was a bit disappointed seeing Stride Cup top 3 from the Sand event. I thought we'd see some actual fluffy, not tryhard lists, but 3rd and 2nd don't seem to have any flavour at all. I mean,
I wouldn't call Morgul Knight spam tryhard, to be honest. I think that's that's not it.
I don't think either of the lists were actually particularly strong. Maybe they were Strider Cup strong, but yeah.
I mean, like, Strider Cup it's not 7 stones. You're not making your own rules up.
Yeah.
It's a doubles 80 where people run things that they want to run. It's not about the fluff only or theme only or something. It's like, hey, I really like to run Kamal on Felbeast with some Morgul Knights as my side. Okay, well, let's make that work. That's how I see it. You can kind of make it a bit more themey than you normally would, but it doesn't have to. It's not like a prescribed theme tournament. It's like fun first.
Ultimately, we joke and we meme and all that, but we shouldn't criticize people for taking things they want to play to a tournament, because people's enthusiasm.
You did earlier this episode, Stephen.
Yeah, listen. The persona I put out online and what I actually think are 2 entirely different things. This is a complete facade. I'm just lying.
Critical.
Yeah.
Rory Duckett.
Go
on. Fine. Rory Duckett congratulates Kyle on joining Any Heroics. See you at an event soon, no doubt.
Yeah, if you want to join Any Heroics, please let me know which one of my childhood friends I should kick out for you and why.
Me?
Could I have a list of them, please, Stephen?
I mean, Matt, if you want to join the team, you're gonna have to message me quick, mate.
There's always room on the B team, Matt, in the binges.
Yeah, Benny Baroics is the B team. Lutzik Meyer, again, apologies, 9338 says, Gothmog idea, move it, maggots. Gothmog may call a heroic march at the start of each movement phase without expending might. I like that. It's maybe
start. Project Gothmog needs a big rework, so that's a good starting point.
Yeah, he also says something about Gandalf the White, but I don't think we expanded that comment. Apologies.
It says Gandalf the White spells successfully cast by Gandalf automatically count as if their casting roll was a 6 for resist tests. Now that's interesting.
That is interesting because he does have some defensive buffing magic, but then he also
he's got blast and banishment, and stuff is broken, which would be really nasty actually.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
Considering how many points he is, I'd be in favour of that actually. I think that's a neat idea because if you didn't add anything else to him, the hit still wouldn't make him good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, my lord. 2350 says I didn't tack this onto my comment last week because it was already so long. This one's for Dave. Black Numenorians are my favourite warriors in the game. They have the same aesthetic as the Mouth of Sauron, and that's my favourite looking baddie from the films. They are likely going to Legends though. Sad trombone noise.
I think firstly, what we've got to say, he's your favourite aesthetic, favourite looking baddie from the film. He's in one of them. And secondly, he's only in the extended edition.
Well. If you're going to be that sarcastic,
he's not a cinematic release.
He's their favorite baddie from the films. So of the baddies in the films, he is their favorite. I don't think you can correct the grammar there.
Take, but I mean, fair enough. Like I said with confidence, Black Numenorians were no one's favorite. He disagrees. I was wrong. Hand to heart.
Whoa, Dave's just admitted to being wrong for the first time ever on the podcast. Hashtag shadow.
I mean,
I'm how many will?
The leading Tolkien scholar theory is that Gothmog, because he's not named as an orc in the Return of the King, the leading theory is that he is in fact a Black Numenorian.
He's described as the lieutenant of Morgul and nothing else.
Yeah,
it's a Numenorian. Gothmog is a Numenorian name. It's not an orcish name.
But he's like a Balrog name, isn't it?
Gosh, check out this nerd.
Right, the Lord of the Balrog. We turn into a Tolkien scholar podcast.
Did the Balrog have wings? I want an answer.
Comment down below.
Comment below if you think Gothmog has wings.
That's a good joke, actually, Stephen. I like that.
Was that all of the comments?
There was one other. There was a few others.
Really long thread I remember reading.
There was quite a lot of back and forth about someone's ideas about Rivendell elves. I think we might have cut out here just because there was a lot of content there.
Yeah, apologies. I did read that one because you were talking about making Rivendell elves similar to Beornings and having multiple wounds and burly and things like that. I really like the idea. Your thread was very, very, very long, and we don't have the extra half hour to talk about it here because we've already gone on for an hour and a half. So thank you for your input, and I do apologise that we haven't featured your comments. We've tried to cram in as many comments as possible and as many tournaments as possible this weekend.
Once again, blame Dewey.
Yeah, I blame Dewey. So yeah, thanks for coming along to listen, watch, or pretend to listen while you're painting your models, David Clubley. I know you're listening. We are, of course, affiliated with the lovely Seventh City Collectibles. Wonderful people all. Matt is, of course, very, very, very well known in the community for being part of the Seventh City Collectibles team, Seventh City Crusaders. Matt, any closing thoughts?
Always absolutely fabulous to be here, and I hope everyone has had a fantastic time listening to you all talk and me talk a little bit.
Oh, it was a lot of me talking, wasn't it? I had a little nap earlier and I woke up full of energy. Yeah, that's very nice. Very kind of you, Matt. It was very nice of you to offer to come on as well, even if we didn't talk as much about your event win as you wanted us to.
I hope you covered my other 90-point doubles win as well.
We didn't have the results, unfortunately, because as you will have seen, the team names didn't have the player names transferred across for poor Mr. World Champion, and he's still chasing those. If you went to BritCon, tell Will the name of your players for your team. But that's enough ranting and chastising from me. I'm not your dad unless your name is Alex Neves. Thank you everyone for coming along to watch. Remember to comment, like, share, subscribe, support your Hobbit hobby. Go check out 7 City Collectibles. And until next time, be good people and chitter chitter.
Chitter chitter.
It's,
No chitter from you, Matt?
I don't know the reference. I don't watch the show.
Oh.